So, I want to talk about really letting things go. And I want to start this with a metaphor or story, so to speak. And I want you to picture a kid crying. And the one kid cries and he's trying to keep it in. Like some of it's coming out, but he's trying to hold it in. And that's going to go on for a long time. And there might be some little outbursts in between of, but for the most part, because there's this kid holding in the cry, that goes on for a while. As where the kid who is just allowed to, in that moment, get it out of their system, most often what we see is they cry for a moment and then the parent goes, okay, everything okay now? And they go, yeah, because they just needed to get that emotion out of their system. It wasn't about what happened necessarily. It was just they got frustrated at all and just needed to let it out. And I want to apply this to our adult lives. So often are we as adults encouraged to just push it down, bottle it down, only let it out here, only let it out there, only let it out if it's gotten this big. And so what I find interesting about this is that I have this thing that I do where I will yell at traffic. I will yell at people at traffic. I mean, they don't know I'm yelling at them. But for myself, I will yell at people in traffic. And people sitting in the car with me, if this happens when there are people sitting in the car with me, think that I'm really, really upset. When in fact, I don't really get that bothered by traffic. But I've allowed it to be my outlet in life. So that I'm not actually driving erratically. I'm just like, oh, fuck that guy. But the outburst that I have seems far, far more aggravated than the little tiny bit of emotion I'm actually feeling. And what this does is gives me an outlet for frustration throughout the day. But what's most important is when it actually comes to what's actually frustrating you, because yeah, the driver's frustrating me, but there are other things that could frustrate me throughout the day. And it may not be appropriate in that moment to have an outburst. We aren't children anymore. We know when it is right and when it is wrong, or at least I would hope, to get something out of your system. But so taking that moment when you get home and you are in a safe place to do so, to yell, scream, cry. If you don't want to have an actual physical outburst, journal about it, talk to a friend about it, talk to a coach about it, or a therapist. Because what this does is actually let it out. That's so important, because otherwise you are going to just be filled with all this negative emotion that you could otherwise be relieved of on a regular basis. This applies to relationships as well. I see so many people who, in their relationships, rather than just in the moment it happens, tell their partner, I didn't like that. They let it build and build and build and build and build. And so rather than working through a relationship with their partner, all of a sudden it ends out of this massive explosion of frustration. And this doesn't need to happen in our lives in any way, shape, or form. We can just, in our own way, get it out safely rather than letting it turn into this bigger thing that it has to be, or holding it inside it all, because there's no room for happiness when you're harboring all of that negative energy. So, yeah. Thank you guys for listening. May the energies you serve you well, and I'll see you in the next video.